Hey guys, welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. I know it's been a while, or it's been about 3 weeks since my last video, but I have not forgotten about the video series. And today we're going to continue building our OpenAI API application that is going to generate a business plan for a user, right? And we're gonna ask the user very simple questions around just give us your business name, what are you selling, like very easy things. And we're gonna take all of that and put it into an AI model, and we're gonna generate a complete business plan for that user. So this is gonna be really amazing, guys. I'm very excited about it. Now, this project is a bit complex, so if you're just joining us, this I think is like the third or fourth video. All right, so there are multiple sections to building this project that we have been addressing in different videos. Okay, so if you're just joining us, please go and start and watch the series from the beginning, because you're going to need to know how we got to where we are today, because today we're going to continue where we left off in the last video. All right, we've already done quite a bit. The first thing that we've already done, which is very important and very crucial for this application to work, is we're going to have a WhatsApp interface. So we're going to be communicating with the person via WhatsApp. We're not building a web application, we're building a WhatsApp application, which means that we're going to generate this business plan for the person on WhatsApp, and they will be just sending us on WhatsApp, and then we will use the AI model in the background, which we are building using Django, and then we're going to generate a document which we are going to send them a link on WhatsApp, and they'll just download their business plan. It's going to be very simple, probably never been done before application, guys. So I'm excited. I'm doing this for the first time, and I'm also discovering this as I go along with you, because I've always had this idea in mind of trying to generate something like this. Okay, so the first thing that you need to have done by now, of course, is you need to have your Facebook application running, because the WhatsApp API is now open. All right, you can now use it. You don't need to go through a third party, but you need to have a Facebook page. And we've covered this, I think, in the first video, so I'm not going to go through this again. But what I want to mention, because we're still using a temporary test number, later in the end of the tutorial series, perhaps I'll show you how to get an actual WhatsApp number that is a permanent number, where you can get an actual permanent token that will always work. So for now, because we're still using the test phone number that gets given when you generate your API for the first time, we need to sort of generate the token every 24 hours. So the token we get now is only valid for 24 hours. So if you are following along, the token you have now is no longer valid. What you need to do is go back to your Facebook developers page, go back to that application that we developed, and go to the getting started part of it, and then just refresh this page. It will regenerate a token for you. Okay, and then copy that token and go back to our settings.py file. There is that place where you have to paste the token, which I'm not going to show you, but if you followed along, you know exactly where that is. Just a reminder that you don't forget, just refresh the current token, otherwise the token you had before is not going to work. Okay, so that's the very first thing that you need to do. And the next thing we've already done is that we've already built the WhatsApp application part. We've already done receiving messages, we've already done sending messages. So the WhatsApp interface is pretty much done, and now we were working on the Django part of it. All right, so last video that we did, I think I discussed the models that we need to work through. Okay, and this model I developed with you guys right here on this channel, and I showed you that, okay, we're going to need a profile. So we need to be able to connect a person's business plan to a user in Django and to a profile, so that we can sort of be able to differentiate or plan and segregate the data that we have and associate it to specific users. Because when we generate a business plan, we need to know who the business plan belongs to, so that even if the person comes back in future and maybe they want to access a business plan they did before, and also when we need to charge them, because we're going to charge people for this thing, we're not going to do it for free. All right, so when we need to charge people, we need to be able to associate the profile and know who has paid for their business plan, and so forth and so forth. So if you've done Django applications with me specifically, or with anybody, you would know that creating a user profile is one of the basic things that you need to be able to do in Django, so that you can associate the entities and the tables, everything. You can build it and connect it to a user profile. That's sort of like the data planning and architecture part of an application. It's very, very important that you associate all the content and the data that's inside your application to specific users. So that's why we have the profile. And then we created a business plan model as well. This is also very important, not necessary because you could save this maybe in your session, but I want to persist the data inside of the database. Okay, so we're going to create a business plan model, and I've actually not overly simplified it. I've made it complex enough that you can understand the power of the API, right? But I'm not going to go into the financial planning because I think that's going to be a little bit too much for what I need to teach you, right? So I've sort of decided on a middle ground where we're going to talk about the description of the company, the market analysis, we'll do SWOT analysis, product descriptions, marketing strategies, and and all of that, which is 80% of what you'll put in a business plan. I think the remainder part is just the financials, which I think you don't need an AI to create financials, right? But you probably need a system for that, and maybe we'll add that later or not. I don't think that's important for the tutorial that we're doing today, so I'm going to leave it out. There was a section I was going to do a whole model on that, but I've decided to simplify it a little bit and just show you with the sort of content that can be generated with AI around marketing and product descriptions, planning, and all of that. So that's what we're going to focus on. And all of these, if you look over here, the way we've structured the model, I think that it was a homework I gave the last time. If you did watch the last video, was go and try and write this model for yourself. Okay, so what I ended up with, we already did the company description. Okay, so the next part is a market analysis, SWOT analysis, product detail, and marketing strategy. And all of these are going to be text fields, which means they are text areas. We can have as long as we want. The sections can be blank, it can be null, it doesn't matter, but we need to be able to then when we generate the content from the AI, we're gonna stick it in these variables and have it persist in the database, and then this needs to be associated to a specific user. As you can see, a business plan is gonna have a foreign key with a profile, and that profile is the one that we created over here, which is almost like an extension of the user, but we've added now to the profile it's a one-to-one field with the user, number one, which means one user can have only one profile. Okay, which makes sense. But we've added other variables in here, like a phone number and a phone ID. So these are going to be used to associate the specific user with every time somebody sends us a WhatsApp. If you recall, we can pull from that WhatsApp the phone ID and the phone number. So we'll be able to, every time we get a WhatsApp, take it back to the user and understand which user is sending us this message. So we'll be able to sort of like identify a specific user in our database from the WhatsApp message that they send us, because we are going to save all of that information under a profile for a user. That is why we create the user profile. Then we extend it a little bit more and have each user now will have business plans, but you can see the profile is not a one-to-one with the business plan, is a foreign key instead, which means that one user can have multiple business plans. Like I could create multiple different business plans for different businesses, but those business plans will always be associated with that one profile, which is associated with the one user. You understand? So this is sort of how we've decided to design our data architecture, and this is what's necessary for just building the business plan. And this was a homework I gave you the last time, so it's very simple. I hope you're able to do it. The rest of the variables over here, utility variables are always included in my model. I always want to know a date created, last updated, unique ID that I can use to track, even though Django does create a unique ID anyway, that's a number, but I want to have my own, that's not a number, that's going to be created from UUID4, as you can see over there. So the unique ID gets created the first time. When it's none, I just sort of create it over there. But if you've watched my videos, you know exactly how this works. And then I have the business plan over there. And I'm just sort of overriding the save method with assigning a date created and a unique ID. And of course, every time somebody saves, it re-updates the last updated. That's all that's happening over here. Very simple stuff, okay? Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to work on the prompts, because also this is probably the most important part of this application, is building the perfect prompt that will give you consistent outputs. I think I covered this the last time, but we had prompts written for the company description, and now we just have to do the same for the market analysis, marketing strategy, and so forth. Okay, so if you look over here, I did the prompt for the market analysis. Okay, and the way I did it was I was able to generate a very decent market analysis just using the business name, product, service, and description, short description, right? These are the only three things we're going to ask the user to provide. We're going to ask them to give us the name of their business. We're going to ask them to give us what exactly they're going to be selling in their business, and even like just a one sentence description of what, like a very simple, which something I would expect a person who's trying to start a business would have a one sentence describing their business. That's all we need. We want to make this as simple as possible for the user, and we're going to take all of this and put it into our API and generate a full market analysis. Okay, so this prompt over here, I've already tested it. I don't want to waste time in the video to show you. So what I will do is that I don't like to make my code available, but what I will do is that I will make the prompts available. Okay, this is my prompt to you, but you can rewrite the prompt any way you like. Okay, so I tested a couple of things. I googled a couple of things on the internet, because the thing with the OpenAI API is you've got to give it a decent prompt so that it will generate you value, right? The prompt you give it directly influences what it gives out. It can give you a one paragraph or a full page, output based on the prompt that you give it. So I've learned to sort of create more complex prompts where I clearly define to the AI exactly what I want it to write for me, right? So for this marketing analysis, I Googled around what is the best way to write a marketing analysis and all the important things that need to be covered in a marketing analysis. So I gave the prompt guidelines to say, okay, fine, start by describing the position of the business in the market. I want you to cover the following topics: the potential customers, the customers' buying habits, how large is the target market, how much people are willing to pay for the product, who are the main competitors, what are my competitors' strengths and weaknesses. You understand? So I'm guiding the prompt on what it needs to cover in this marketing description, all right? And the detail, this guideline is, the more accurate the output is going to be, and the more fitting it's going to look for the business plan you're trying to create, okay? So this is very, very important, and I've learned this over time, how to describe to the OpenAI what exactly you want it to output for you. So now what we're going to be doing is I've written a prompt for all of this, and I will make the code available. I won't put this on GitHub, but I think I'll do like a gist. All right, so I'll do a gist or something like that for this AI file of mine, which just describes the prompts. Okay, so I'll do a gist for this, and then you can see the prompts, and you can see the function that is going to be creating the AI stuff based on the prompt. I decided not to do the competitor analysis anymore because it's sort of covered in the marketing analysis. In the market analysis, I do cover a little bit of the competitor stuff, so I think it's a bit of a overkill to have both. But you'll see. All right, so I've redone all the prompts, and these are the stuff. This is what you need to get from the user. So all our what we call our WhatsApp questions, when we'll be asking the user to provide us information, these are the things we need. And it's very simple things, guys, like very simple. Like I'm gonna copy this, all right, and I'm gonna paste it. Where can I paste it? Let me paste it in my notes. All right, I'm gonna paste it in here, and this is basically what we need to ask the user. All right, we need to ask the user these questions. What is your business name? What is your business type? All right, like a PTY or whatever. And I think business type is not even important, but for the business plan, maybe we'll ask that. But let me see, where does the business type go in here? The business type goes into the initial company description. So maybe you're gonna have to say it's a PTY LTD or something like that. Because maybe somebody might want an NGO, for example, so I think that's where the business type comes in. It's not very important. And maybe what we can also do for the business type is that we can help the user a little bit by providing options. So this is actually a good way of doing a select field with WhatsApp, and maybe you'll see that, because we really want to simplify this. So maybe we'll have like options and say, are you a PTY Ltd? Are you a this and that? Are you a this and that? And they can pick a number, and then we sort of, so simplify this for the user. They can enter the country, because it's very important with the business plan. I think not really. It's important, but not so. You can decide later on if you think this, you want to include the country, or you can, if you're going to build this thing for one country, you can just simplify that. But what's really important here is the business name, the product, service, and the short description. You'll see the majority of our prompts, that's all we have. The business name, product, service, and short description. All the rest of the prompts, that's all we've had. In fact, this is all you really need. These other ones are just, to add a little bit extra spice, but you could do this whole project by just asking these 3 questions. And I want to challenge you to try that, and you'll see how well it's going to work out. Okay, but for the sake of completeness, I will do all of these, right? So now that we've done all of this, then suddenly it hits you, like, how are you going to collect this information from the user, right? You're going to be asking specific WhatsApp questions, and then they will have to respond. Okay, so now that I've explained, we've now caught up where we left off last week. All right, we've done all the prompts, which I will create a gist, a gist for, so you can see how I did my prompts. If you want to follow exactly the way I did it, I'll put this in a gist. That's all I'll do. The rest of the code I'm not going to make available as usual, guys. I don't like to make my code available because I want you to actually write it yourself. But I think for the sake of for the prompts, I think it's important so that we are on the same page. I will make that available, right? The models I will not make available because this is very simple. You can just freeze the screen right here, and then you can retype this for yourself. You can freeze it again. I only have 2 models for now, okay? So there's no need to make that available. Then the next thing that I just want to bring to your attention is then you need to create on your admin.py file. You need to just register these new models that you just created, the profile and the business plan. All right, I haven't made any changes to the views at all, which means that I can run this application and then we can test. I think we're gonna just test that this thing works, and the way to test it is you just send a WhatsApp number, and let's see. You send a phone number. We're gonna send a message to this, what to call it. We're already running this application, and the webhook is up and running and everything. We already covered this in previous tutorials. All we need to do is to test that the WhatsApp is working. Is I need to WhatsApp this number, and then it's gonna respond to me with the same message I sent it. It's just gonna say and whatever it is that I sent it. Okay, so that's all we're gonna do before we can continue, to just make sure that everything is in line. Okay, so with that, I'm going to save all of this, and then I'm going to push the changes, and then we're going to test that, and then we're going to be able to continue with what we need to be doing now going forward. Okay, let's just start by saying that troubleshooting is a normal part of development. I always tell people that I'm teaching, some of people that work with me, that when you get an error or things don't work out the way you think they're supposed to work out, all you need to do is to take a step back and go through the steps one by one and try and figure out where the error is. Now, this is specifically challenging because, usually one of the biggest troubleshooting tools that I use when I'm programming in Django, for example, is print. Print is very good for debugging. So when you're running here and you're getting an error in here, but you're not quite sure what the error is, especially when you're developing this for the first time, because the documentation is wrong. I'll tell you this. The Facebook documentation is completely wrong. If you come here and you're trying to understand the webhook, and this is where the webhook documentation or website is, and I'm subscribed to this messages webhook. You'll remember we did this a couple of videos ago. And then there's a test over there. You can click on it, and it's going to show you this object, right? And then if you look at this object, this is not the object that actually gets sent to you. So if you test with this is wrong, right? And then you also get on the webhook documentation over here where they're trying to explain what the webhook object looks like. This is also incorrect, by the way. Okay, because the webhook object doesn't quite look like this, and it's missing a couple of information. So the only way I'm able to see what the object actually looks like is to actually make a webhook request and print it out. So this is, for me, the first step that I took to try and solve this problem, because I'm trying to figure out why is this function not getting up to here, because I was sending a message but I'm not getting a response. There's an error somewhere in here. I know I've tested my webhook, so I know this is not the problem. I've tested the webhook before. Something is wrong. And they WhatsApp people, they changed their documentation and now it's a new version. I just noticed going through their thing that this was a new version 15, and when we first started this, we were on version 14. So you have to update that, and so things are constantly in flux. So what I did is, first of all, try and figure out what does this object actually look like, right? And it's a challenge because it's easy to print if you're printing when you're running on the shell, because you can just print and then the print is going to display on the shell and you can see what the object looks like, right? But we know that the Facebook is not going to send a webhook to an HTTP, so you can't actually send it to a development server where you can actually print it out. You need to send it to HTTPS, and HTTPS is Nginx's server, and you can't like view the print of Nginx server. There's ways around it, but it's a long process, right? So my solution was, it's really a neat one. What I did was I just removed all of this completely. Yeah, right. I removed this, and in future when you have a problem, you can try something like that as well. And I just saved this data in the database. So all I did was that I created, and I've got one of my models over here. A model I can use is business plan, right? So I went and I just created a new instance of the business plan, and I saved it in the database. I saved this as one of the variables in there so that I could physically look at it. And then I actually, you'll see, I think I ran it over here. Or did I close it down? I think I can reopen it, right? So all I need to rerun this is to go to my domain, which is, if you remember, my domain is what is my domain? It's HTTPS messages. I can't remember what the domain is, but I can find it out here of the webhook, because it's going to be available in the webhook subscription. So this is my domain over here, messages.scholar.online. Okay, so if you go to your domain, there's nothing on the web. It's just running empty, but because I need the server to run, but there's nothing over here. But you can still access the admin endpoint, right? So you can still log into admin, which is what I did. And let's see, admin at, just trying to remember my password over there. And so I added that into the business plan. It's just a neat solution. I tried to oh my gosh, I did this like a million times, which is usually what we don't want. But I was able to save the thing in the database so that I could see what it actually looks like. All right. So now that I've seen what it looks like, that object, I can actually go ahead and delete it. I can actually delete all of these because I don't really need them anymore. I just saved them for the sake of, just observing what was on the database. So yes, I'm sure that I want to delete it. All right. And the profile as well, I'll leave that one profile object. I needed to create one profile object that I could use as a related field for the database. Nonetheless, this is how I went about so that I could actually see what the object looked like. So once I was able to see what the object looked like, another thing for testing APIs that's really, really useful is to test your specific function that you've written over here before you run it on the webhook. I used, I used this Postman, right? So I was able to figure out this is what I actually copied from my database. All right, this is exactly what gets sent. It's very important to know exactly what gets sent. So I was able to print out exactly what gets sent into the database, and then I put it inside of Postman and then resent it to my webhook URL. But this time I'm sending it to the test one, or the development server, which is my IP, because I want to see if there's an error. I want the error to print out, right? And then I was able to see that there was an error with one of the variables over here that was supposed to be, so they must have changed the structure of the object over time, and it happens. right? So I was able to remove that variable. I think it was one of the variables over here. I can't remember which one it was. I then had to retest all of these ones to make sure that the way I'm passing these variables is correct. Okay, and also I decided to remove stuff that I don't need. Actually, the only thing I really need over here is the phone, is the profile name and the WhatsApp ID. I think the WhatsApp ID is the same as the from ID. These are the same. And then I need the text. I just need the phone number, because if you look at my model over here, the only thing I'm saving inside of the profile is the phone ID and the phone number. I'm not saving all of these other things. So actually all I need is the text and the from ID. I don't even need all of these other things. All right, and some of them were the ones causing the error passing it, and I haven't changed this code I've been using for since the last time you saw on this thing it was working, and today it's not working. So that's the thing with APIs, the versions are constantly changing. Sometimes they update their code, and you have to always be vigilant to double check some of these things. But always, this test will work every time. The most important thing is to try and figure out what gets printed. Sometimes I used to even email this to myself, because another strategy I used to use is, okay, I would just create an email function over here and email this thing to myself, because I want to see what it is, or even try to WhatsApp it to myself. But that didn't work because it was a JSON object and it had other problems trying to email a JSON object. So eventually I just saved it in the database, because at least it can save in the database. So in future, this is just the process that I went through to fix this problem, but it should have been fixed right now. So I'm going to now test it. If I go to the WhatsApp and I send myself a WhatsApp message, this is the WhatsApp number that we're working with, 155 whatchamacallit. It's the WhatsApp number on Facebook, is the same number over here. So if I go to WhatsApp and I go to my getting started, it's the same number that I'm working, that I got given the test number, 155322328. So that's the same number over here, 3228. So if I say anything in here, hello there, what I'm trying to test is that the webhook will, I've subscribed to the webhook, is going to come over here and post that object over here, which I can pass and figure out what message was sent to that WhatsApp number, so that I can deal with it later. So as a first step, let's just make sure that we can receive and send a message. So I'm receiving it via the webhook over here, and the message is here inside the object. This is a structure of the message that gets sent inside of the webhook. You can see the specific details over there and the message and everything. So I just want to make sure that I get that message, and then I can pass the information I want out of the message, and I can resend whatever was received, right? So I'm gonna say hello there with an emoji, all right, and a smiley face, and then I send that message, and then after a while it should echo that message back to me. Hello there was received. Okay, so now I've taken my WhatsApp back to where it was supposed to be the first time. Now it's working. Now we get to the really interesting stuff, because this is actually where the tutorial should have started, and this is really where what we need to be doing going forward. Now we don't really need to be resending to re-echo the message back to the person. What we need is to ask specific questions. There are questions we need to be asking, and it's these questions over here. These questions we need to be asking: business name, business type, country, product, service, and so forth. And as we ask these questions, we need to save this information somewhere. So there's multiple ways of saving information. If I was working on if I was working on a on a web, like on Chrome or whatever, I would use request.session, right? Because I only need to save this thing temporarily. I only need the questions temporarily and be able to know if something has been saved. And then later on, I will then use it inside of my AI, thingy. But I want to do this once off. So I want to send all of these AI requests at the same time, right? With all of these variables. But I want to get the variables once, right? So what you do is that what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create another model, and the purpose of this model is going to be just for the sake of enabling the communication. So as I ask these questions, right? What is your business name, business type, and so forth? As the person gives me those responses, I'm saving them inside of this model, which I can track from the profile of the phone number of the person I'm talking to. You understand? So I can create this model, and I can have it related to the profile where the phone ID comes from, and then I can double check the phone ID and so forth. So I'm gonna call this model, I'm gonna call it intent. No, actually let's call it chat. Okay, let's call it WhatsApp Yeah, let's just call it chat. All right, I'm gonna call this model chat, and this is a temporary model, right? Whatever gets saved in here, all the questions and answers at the end of the session. So let's call it a chat session, right? At the end of the chat session, I'm gonna actually delete them, which means I don't really need all of these unique ID and so forth, right? And date created. So all I'm gonna do over here is I'm going to have this as models.model, like that. And then I'm going to have all these variables over here, right? And these models can all be character fields, or they can be text areas, right? I think I like working with text areas because you're not limited to how many characters and so forth. And at this stage, I'm not too worried that somebody's gonna write, you know, a long thing. So I'm gonna make all of these text areas, you know, nullable, blankable, whatever. So let's make all of these text areas. Paste. Short description. Years. Years can actually be like a number. How many years? So this can actually be like an integer field, isn't it? Yeah, let's make this an integer field so that, okay, let me look at my documentation. I always love to refer back to my documentation so I can see what the integer field is supposed to look like. Slug field, model field, image field, integer field. Okay, and let's have it like that. Models integer field, and we can have, it can be null or blank. That's also fine. Okay. Progress, we'll go back to a text field. All right. And then now that I'm here, I just remembered, I think we said the business type, we're going to give people options. All right. So we're going to make this one like a select field where you could have options that you could choose from for your different type of, you know, business that you're registering. And then we're going to give the guys options to sort of work with. All right. So, let's say in South Africa, I'm going to assume that we're in South Africa. And if you're doing this, you'll adapt it to whatever country you want to and all the type of businesses you want. But I'm going to give just a few examples. All right. So I'm going to say, let's say option 1 is in South Africa, one of the most popular ones is PTY Ltd. Is a private company. All right. And I think you have this PTY in brackets like that. All right. And the second one, let's say non-profit. All right, and then let's say the third one is a partnership. You know, like they call them. There's a specific name for it, but I'm not going to be too worried about being 100% correct at this stage. I'm just going to give these numbers. This is option 1, 2, and 3. And then when you're doing this, you're going to find obviously the proper business types over here and be able to, you know, to assign them accordingly, right? So I'm going to do the select field now instead. And instead of having it as a text area, so here under business fields, we will have a select field and the options will be these options over here. All right, and then maximum length is 100. I think at 200 we're also fine. I don't think we're gonna have a business type that is gonna be longer than that. All right, and then okay, I'm not gonna worry about, yeah, let's do the utility fields. There are times when I've decided not to do it and then I've lived to regret it. But let's just leave them all. So let's leave all of these exactly the way that it is. And then this is going to be chat session. There's going to be chat session, and then so all of this, what it does is that it just creates a unique ID, date created, assigns it automatically, and then every time you save it, updates the last updated. That's all we're doing here. Then we just add this to make sure we add this to our admin side. All right, this is important. Chat session, and then now as we are chatting to the person, we'll sort of like, we will be checking that they've given us a business name, they've given us the business type, the country, the product, whatever, so we can like save these things as we go along, right? And then we know that this is a session that we're talking to. But now each and every session is going to have a related field to the profile. Okay, this is very, very important. All right, it's going to have a related field to the profile like that. All right, so that we can specify a profile for every chat session that we have, so that we can be able to fetch the chat session based on the profile, because the profile is the one that's going to store the phone number and the phone ID. And I think phone ID and phone number should be similar things, right? Let me just double check here. What exactly are we saving? Because WhatsApp ID, this is actually the phone number actually. But then there is this phone number ID over there, this one. This is also important. So let me see if I'm saving this phone number ID inside of my views. Phone ID, metadata, phone number ID. So let's just have a look there. Phone number ID, metadata. Okay, so this is the important one. This phone ID is what we're saving under phone ID. And then we need only the profile name, not so much. We don't need the profile name. We're not concerned about it, but I'll leave it there. In future, maybe if I want to like extend the application to sort of talk to people, personalize some of the discussions. Hey Bertha, nice to have you back again, and stuff like that, WhatsApp ID. Actually, I'm not the WhatsApp ID. We don't use it for anything. There it is, but we're not using it. So it's actually just the phone ID and the from ID. So these two things, variables, are the ones which we're actually using, this one and this one. And then the text, of course, we want to know what the hell they're saying to us so we can respond accordingly. All right, so these are the important variables. So we're getting all the things that we need from the chat. Okay, so now what happens when somebody sends a message for the first time? All right, so this first time somebody sends a message, we want to know, we're going to be having a conversation with the person, and we want to build this application in such a way that at any point it will have memory, like it will be persistent. If somebody started creating a business plan and they didn't finish and they sort of left it halfway, this application should be persistent enough that you should be able to track the chat conversation and figure out where was the last time that we ended the chat. That's why we are creating a whole model over here to aid the chat. We'll be able to know based on what has been saved where the conversation is, right? So the first thing that needs to happen, and I'm just thinking as I go along here, guys, this is where the magic happens. The first thing is that we're going to create a new function, right? We're going to create a new function, and we're going to call this function handle WhatsApp chat, right? And the only thing we're going to send in this in here is we're going to send obviously the from ID, because we need to know who it comes from. The from ID is very, very important because we can use the from ID to fetch the profile, right? And then we need to know what the text is, right? So this from ID and this text, we're gonna handle the WhatsApp chat. All right, so let's write this function, and we're gonna write this function inside of our functions file. All right, so over here is where we're gonna write this function. All right, so what happens when okay, so this is going to be a function like that. What happens when somebody sends the first time they receive a message? We obviously the first thing that we need to do is to check if there is a chat session. All right, so what we're going to say is we're going to say try, right? We need to import all the models here. Okay, from dot models, import everything. Let's just check that's how we want to do it. From dot models, import everything. Cool. And then we want to check which model we are looking for is this one. This is the model that is going to be holding the chat session. All right, so we're going to say where's our functions? We're going to say try. All right, the chat is equals to this chat sessions dot objects dot get, and we're going to make sure that we never save more than one chat session with the same from ID. All right, so we're going to get this with the chat session, with the profile. We want to check the profile functions. We want to check the profile dash. This is 2 underscores, all right, because we are going into the profile model. We are going into the profile model and looking for the phone number, which is the from ID, which is going to be the same as the from ID. So we're going to say the profile double underscore phone number is equals to this from ID. Okay, so we're going to check if there's a session in a chat session saved in our database which has this profile for where the profile's phone number is equals to this from ID that we have received from this WhatsApp chat that's happening, right? Exception. If there's an exception, we're going to create this. We're going to, first of all, if there's an exception, we're going to start by creating a profile. And then after creating a profile, we're going to create a chat session. And then that chat session will be saved. And the next time we come through here, that chat session will exist. Understand? So to create a profile, let's see, we're going to create a profile for this person inside of our models. Let me just put this close to that so I can just move easier. So for this profile, all we need is a user, a phone number, and a phone ID. Okay. So how do we create a user? To create a user, we need minimum a username and a we need a minimum a username and an email address. So we need to ask this the people to provide us with an email address. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we need an email address. So in the questions that we're asking over here, we need to have an email address. Okay. All right, and then this can be a text field as well. It's fine, it doesn't matter. All right, we're going to need to ask for the email address, and we can be even more complex and test, send a test email to confirm that the email address is correct, which is probably what you want to do in a real life application. When they give you an email address, you want to go and check it to be correct. Or actually, no, we're not going to do this. This is even better. This is now where we're going to, we're not going to do that. We're going to, we're not even going to have emails. Why are we going into emails? Because we're doing WhatsApp. We can confirm the person from their WhatsApp. So what we will do, in fact, instead of email addresses, we will just use this profile name. So we'll send the profile name as well, and we'll use this profile name to create the profile. All right, but this profile name is not an email address. What I'll do is that I'll just create a random email address, one email address I give to everybody in case Django is going to be testing that email address. So what we'll do now, we will just create now a profile, and this is what needs to be added into a profile. Okay, a user and so forth. So we need to say create a profile, but before we can create a profile, we need to create a user. All right, so we need to import the user model over here. So let's go to our models, and we need to import the user model from Django auth models. And I need to import that in there. And then when I create a new user, we're going to say the user is equals to user.objects .create. And we're going to create a user with I know you need to specify a username, right? And the username, we're going to this handle WhatsApp chat. If I go back to my views, let me just copy all of this from ID, profile name, and text. We can put those in here, and then we have the profile name from there. It's how we're going to save the username. Okay, the username is going to be that. The email, we're going to use one email address. Okay, tester1 at everybody will have the same email address. It doesn't mean anything. We're not going to use it for anything. Maybe in future we can update it or something like that. The password is also not important. We're not using the password for anything. No one will be logging in with a password, but we want to create a user profile, and this is how Django user is sort of set up, so we really don't have a choice. So we can create a user with a username, an email, and a password. You can also add a first name, and then the first name can just be the same as his profile name. Okay, and we're not going to create a last name. We're just going to do it like that. So we're going to have a new user. And then once we've created a new user, we need to say create user. When you create user, you need to use create user. Then for the next one, I think we have models imported. After we've created that user, we are going to now create, where's our models? We're going to create profile. Right? We're going to say, we're going to create a profile. So we create a user there. We're going to create a profile. We're going to say profile. Profiles is equals to profile.objects.create, right? And we need to specify the user. The user is that user we created at the top over there. That's going to be the user for that profile. And then we need to specify the phone number and the phone ID. All right, the phone number and the phone ID. Right, so the phone number over here will be, the phone number is this from ID. All right, and then the phone ID over there is equals to we didn't create the phone ID, so we need to send the phone ID as well. So over here we do have the phone ID, which is this one. Okay, so let's just add it in here before the text, and then if we go back into our functions just before the text, let's add the phone ID over here, and then that phone ID is equal to that phone ID at the top. Right, and now we have our user added, and so we have that done. We have the profile. Let me actually just, instead of doing it like that, let me rather say user profile is equal to that, so that is a bit clearer what we're doing. First, we're creating the user with that profile name that comes from the WhatsApp, and we're going to pick a random email and password. We don't care because people are not going to use this to log in. This is going to be a WhatsApp application, and we'll always test the user checking with their phone number and so forth, and from ID. So we'll be able to see the from ID when we want to access the profile information, so we don't need them to have a password. And that's it. And then we create a chat session. All right, so the chat session is going to be this chat session, right? And we just need to have the profile, right? So the chat session is equals to chat is equals to chat session dot objects dot create, and we need to create a chat session with a profile that is the same as the user profile. Profile is the same as a user profile, right? And when you create a chat session over here, you will see that this chat session, only the profile is a required field. It's not really required, but obviously it makes sense. I would even remove this and make it required, actually, to be more accurate. Yeah, it needs to be required because you don't want to have a chat session without a profile attached to it. But these other ones are not required, and you can ask them as you go along. All right, so you then create a chat session with that profile, and then that is the chat that we're working with. So over here we will look for a chat where the profile phone number, it matches that, the from ID. All right, and if we can't find it, it means it doesn't exist, and then we create all of this. But now, before we create a user, I suppose you almost later on, I think what would be a good idea is just make sure the user doesn't already exist. Okay, just check that this user does not already exist. Okay, we need to do this check here. And to do that, you can just check that this user does not already exist. But if the user did exist, we should have found them over there with a chat session. All right. But a user could exist. So what could happen is somebody could create a chat session and they finish creating, and then the same person comes back and the chat session doesn't exist anymore, but the user exists. So that's why we need to check that the user and profile, but the user and profile are one-to-one fields and they'll be created together. So over here, before we create the user, we actually need to check that the user does not exist. Okay, user.objects dot filter. All right, user objects filter. We want to filter on username is equals to this profile name. Right, we need to check if this user exists. All right, if this user exists, there's a lot of things here, and my mind is working at the same time, because what could happen is, WhatsApp profile names are not unique, right? You could have somebody, I could create a profile name and then somebody creates another profile name and you have the same profile name, but it's two different people. So obviously, if this exists, it doesn't mean that, if the user is going to be the right user. So somebody could come in with a profile name of another user and try and use their profile. So obviously we'll have to check that later, but to simplify things, let's just assume that the usernames are going to be unique for now, right? If this user exists, we are going to go get that user, right? User.objects dot get, we're going to get that user with that username. Right, and we're going to assume that usernames are unique. Definitely for Django, they will be unique. You won't be able to create another user with the same username because Django will prevent that from happening. Right, so we will get that user, and then once we get that user profile, right, that user profile is going to be equals to the user.profile. Because user, you can it's one-to-one related. User and profile, if you look at user and profile over here, is one-to-one related, a one-on-one field, which means you can get the user profile like that. So if the user already exists, we're not going to recreate them. So over here, all of this only happens if the user does not exist, right? So if the user does not exist, then we go get them. We create them, but if they exist, we get them, and then we get the chat session, or we create a new chat session. So if the chat session exists, we just work with the chat. That's what we want. If the chat session doesn't exist, we check if the user of that profile exists. If they don't, we create them. If they do exist, we just get those users, and then we create a chat for that user, and then we have a chat session going forward. Okay, that's a bit to think around, but there's gonna be faults in this problem, in this situation, because you could find like I could just change my WhatsApp username to match a username that maybe I want to get into their profile, and then this is going to be a problem. So probably what you want to look at here is you want to check the username, and you also want to check this phone ID. So if we look at the phone ID, which we already have here, and we look at the we need to check if the user, but the user only has the username. So we need to check this user exists. We need to check that the user.profile we need to check if user profile, so we need to check that this profile phone ID, right? We need to check that this profile phone ID matches the phone ID that we have there. All right, because the phone ID is definitely unique with WhatsApp. Okay, if that's the case, you pass. All right, which means you continue, and you've created that. If this is not the case, right, if this is not the case, you probably want to create a new user, right? You want to do the same thing because it means the user is not the user we think, right? So we're gonna create a new user, but this will fail because that profile name exists. So what we can do is that this username what do we do? Yeah, this will be a problem. Yeah, this is going to be a problem because then we won't be able to search for them next time. Okay, so I'm gonna redo this. We don't want to do it like this. This username, what actually makes sense is that the username actually becomes the phone ID. Okay, no, yeah. What makes sense is that the username becomes the phone ID. So this profile name over here, we can keep it as a first name, right? But we can use the you know, to create the user for us to be able to have a unique user. Will have the username as the phone ID. And let me just double check that the phone ID comes in as a string. It is a string, so I don't have to worry about that. And then the first name will be the phone ID, but the username over here, the username will be the phone ID. All right, and then we don't have to do this. Then let me just go through the code again. So what's happening here is that we're checking the chat, all right, and we check that a chat exists with that phone number. That's okay. Okay, a chat with that phone number, that's fine. The profile phone number will definitely be that. Okay, if the chat doesn't exist, we create a new user and we're checking the username using the phone ID because that's how we're going to save the username. All right, and then we get that user, and then we get the user profile. Otherwise, we create a new user with the username of the phone ID, the email and password, but the first name, we put the profile name there. We use the profile name for the first name, so at least we can make this thing personal later on, and then we create the user profile based on that, and then we create a chat session. So I think that's much better. Now that we have a chat session, this function continues, by the way, okay? This function is always an ongoing function. So after we created a chat session, we're gonna check. There's all these variables inside of the chat session, right? There's all these variables inside of a chat session which we need to ask the user about, okay? So let's go in here and just type them somewhere in here, all right? So the first time someone sends us a message, they might just say hello or something like that. All right. After we've created this chat, I just want to see this try, accept. Yeah, this chat session, we need to create it inside of this if else, inside of this exception. Yeah, that's where it was. Yeah, we need to create it inside of the exception. Okay, cool. Then we can go outside of here and do something else. Okay, continue with the function. We'll come back to this. Okay, but before we continue with the function, after we've created the chat session, we need to send a message. All right, a WhatsApp message that says, please enter your business name, because by now they would have said something, and then we say, please enter your business name to proceed. Right, so let's let's do that. So we need to then send a message, right? And then the phone number is the from ID, and the message, we don't know what the message is. We're going to write the message now. So after we create a chat session, we're going to say, hey, welcome to the AI business plan creator. And what I've learned is that you can use like your, typical new line here to get a new line. Maybe put in an emoji. Let's make this thing like a fun application. All right. No, let's not do it here. Let's create some emojis. Smiley face. Dish. Smiling face with smiling eyes over there. Let's try and get that one. Grinning face looks good to me. All right, let's copy it. Okay, welcome to the AI business plan creator. A new line. My name. Okay, let's not name this AI. I'm going to take you through the process of creating your business plan right here on WhatsApp. Right here on WhatsApp. Hope this is the right way to spell WhatsApp. Okay, to get started, enter your business name like that, right? So what happens here is when someone sends a message to this thing for the very first time, when they send a message to this, we will handle that WhatsApp chat, and then it will go into this function. It will check if there's a chat session in place. If there's a chat session, it will do something else. But if there's no chat session, it will create a new user. Otherwise, it will fetch the user of the same phone ID, and then it will create a chat session for that user. All right. So either it does this or it does this, but otherwise it will create a chat session with that profile of of this user profile, and then immediately it will send back this message. All right. So immediately when you send it doesn't matter what you say. You can say hello, what's up. It will just send you this message to say, let's get going. By then you don't know this, but in the background we've already created a chat session for you. The next time you come, right, this chat session already exists, right? So the next time you come, this chat session already exists. So now this is when you return. The chat already exists. What we're going to do now, we're going to start to follow all of these other things. All right. So we're going to check if chat dot. So this chat exists. Either it's created there or it was fetched over there. We're going to check if chat dot business name exists, because initially it would have been blank. If chat dot business name exists, we continue. Okay. If it does not exist, we say whatever they would have typed at this point would be the business name, because we asked them to enter the business name. All right. Then if it had not existed, we would say chat dot business name is equals to whatever the message, the text that they gave us. All right. And then what we will do is we'll chat dot save. Right. And then we go to the next part of the conversation. Right. The next part of the conversation is this message that we need to send. All right. Send the next message. Okay. It's a bit of a mind bender, but you'll see what it is we're doing, and I'll explain it later. Now the message is, oh great, thank you. Great, thank you. Now please enter. What is the next question? The business type. Even though the business type we know needs to be a select field, actually, yeah, the business type needs to be a select field. So we can't say enter the business type. We need to say something else, okay? Please select. Please select the type of business. Enter the number corresponding to the business type. So we're going to give them a select, and we're going to ask them to enter the select type. All right, and then we can put in a new line over here, and we can say type number 1. What were those business types that we had in the models? Let's paste them over here. Type number 1 is Pty Ltd, right? And then we need a new line. Okay, type number 2 is non-profit. All right, we need a new line. No new line. No new line. Type number 3 is partnership, and you can have as many types as you want. All right, and then so please enter the business type. New line number 1, Pty Ltd. New line number 2, non-profit. 3 line number 3, new line. Enter. Let's maybe put in 2 new lines. Enter just the number. Enter just the number. So what will happen here is, at this stage we will ask them to enter the type of business. All right, and we will then process it later. All right, so once they've entered the type of business over here, chat.business name, if that has been saved, if the chat.business name exists, it means that we already passed through this else. It means that when we continue over here, whatever they've entered is going to be this number, but we're going to have to test that, right? So we're going to have to test for the number, and the best way to test for the number is to say integer, right? So we're going to say try, right? Try to say whatever, try the integer of the text that was entered, and then make sure you remove all the empty spaces. All right, if there's any empty spaces, make sure you remove them, because this is a WhatsApp thing about it. There's going to be like people leaving empty spaces, so remove all the empty spaces, and then say type is equals to integer of that. If there's if this one fails, all right, it means that they didn't enter a number. So we're going to ask them to please try again, right? Please try again. Please try again. Let's say please enter the number corresponding, so that they can enter the number. And then when they try again, it will come back here the next time around, and then the type must match the integer of this. And if this works, all right, it means that we can say the chat dot what is the next one? The business name we've already saved. Okay, we can save the chat dot business type, right? We can save the chat dot business type is equals to, what are we going to be equals to? It depends on what the type is, right? So if type is equals to 1, right, then the chat.business type is equals to Pty Ltd, isn't it? Pty Ltd. Let's just copy this again from the models. it will be easier. So if they selected one, we then know that the thing is, no, actually we just save that, right? Chat.business type is equals to, I can't remember whether we're supposed to actually, let's do it like this, because I can't remember which one goes on which side. And if you do remember, please let me know. All right, so I'm just gonna do it like that, and non-profit and partnership like that. And then over here in the functions, if they select one, I know that it is the Pty Ltd that I must save in the database if they selected one, because one will always be that. All right, and then chat.save, right? And then if type is equals to 2, we do that again. If type is equals to 3, we do the same thing. Else, we're gonna get back to else. All right, so if it's equals to 2, we know that it must be a non-profit. If it's equals to 3, it must be a partnership, right? Then else, if it's not any of these numbers, so they entered any other number that doesn't equal 1, 2, or 3, it means they must try again because they didn't enter the correct things, right? So we just ask them to please try again, and we're gonna test all of this, right? We're gonna tell them to try again. So then where are we now? Now, if chat.business name, right, else is equals to that, we try all of this, and then we do that. All right, and then after we've done that, we've saved this. I just want to see where I need to continue from. After we've done this, exactly this, the try, yeah, after the try, no, where's the accept? Accept. So try, this try accept needs to try, okay, the exception needs to come over here, right? So if you try, then there's an exception. I hope this is the correct lining. So if you've passed both the try and the exception, right, it means that you have saved the next thing. You're gonna go into the let me just double check this. If after saving all of this, you are going to send a WhatsApp message. No. All right, no, it's not over here. Sorry, I'm just I'm thinking as I'm typing, so at the same time I have to sort of remember. Okay, so after you've saved over here, this is where you sort of send the next WhatsApp message. You send the next WhatsApp message in here, whether they selected 1, 2, or 3, you send the next message. All right, and the message that you send is going to be now, you've saved that. All right, the next message that you send at this point is going to be the next thing that you need to create. Now you've done the business type, you've just saved the business type, you can just enter country. All right, which country are you from? Right, so that's the message that's going to be sent next. After saving, all right, you send that message over there. Right, my mind is getting a bit tired. I'm thinking as I go along, so I have to remember to consider. Okay, all right, I know. So after you've checked for the business name, you need to check for the business type. All right. And you're gonna do that right at the top. So actually this function needs to go somewhere else. We need to check for the business type if that has been added to the chat. All right, and if it has been added, we're gonna continue. We're gonna write more code over there. All of this only happens if the business type has not been selected. So if the business type has not been selected, then only do we actually save it. So this goes into the else of that first question. So if the business type has not been selected, then we try to check that the text that was entered is a number and everything, and then we go back and we do everything until it's selected. Only then will it then ask which country you're from, and then when it goes here the next time, the business type would have been selected, or the chat or business type will be true. So this is like, you know, inside of the model it will be a none until it's no longer a none. So the next one that we're going to check for is a country, which is the next question we are asking. All right, so over here where we say continue, we're going to check for that. Okay, if chat.country. All right, if the country has been selected, again we continue. We're going to write more code over there. Continue. If it has not been selected, we're going to go into the else, and then this is where we're going to now get it to be selected. Whatever country text that has been entered, we can actually just copy what's over here, right? And because it's exactly the same, because we're not doing you know, select field is actually the one which is a bit harder to do, but the other ones where it's just like a, you know, a text that's entered, you can just save it like that, right? So over here else, we're gonna just say you know, the chat.country. Let's just assume whatever the text they've entered is a country, and then we save the country. And sorry, the next question we need to ask is the product service. Okay, so the question that we need to ask now here is, what product or service will your business be providing? All right, what product or service will your business be providing? And then we're going to ask that question, and then obviously the next time they come around, product or service will now you know, then whatever when they continue over here, we're going to check for if chat dot product or service. All right, again continue. You will get used to the flow. Else, it means whatever they've entered over here is the product or service. All right, so we'll say chat.product or service is whatever it is, the text that was entered at that time, and then we go and we chat.save. All right, and then we ask the next question. All right, the next question over here after product or service is enter a short description for your business. Describe your business. Describe your business in 1 or 2 sentences. All right. Describe your business idea in 1 or 2 sentences. Then obviously over here, the next one that will come through will be the where are we on now? We are on the product or service. We've just no. This needs to go here after country. Yeah, this needs to go there. Actually, let me just copy it like that. This needs to go there, and this needs to come down here. I pasted it in the wrong place. My mind is all over the show, so you guys just also bear with me, and we will test all of this in the end, and we will, you know, if there's a mistake, we'll catch it when we are testing this and actually receiving the messages. We'll be able to know what we need to be receiving next. Obviously, After the country is entered, we want them to enter the product or service, which is what we save over here, and then we ask them to provide the description of the business, which means that the next thing that we're going to ask about is the short description, which means, reminds me, I need to be removing this as I'm going along so I can see what's left. So the next part, the next continue that we're going to be looking for is if chat dot short description. So because that's what would have been entered over there. If that's the case, we're going to continue here. If it's not the case, we're going to assume that whatever is entered over here is the short description, because that's the question we asked previously. All right. And the next question we need to ask is, how many years have you been in business? And this should be an integer field. So we're asking it over there. How many years have you been in a business for? Enter a number like 1 or 2. We need to be very specific because we don't want them to say 1 year or whatever, because we're going to use an integer to test for what they've entered to be correct. All right. And then over here, this continue, we need to, the next thing that we're checking for is chat.years. All right. So the next thing we're checking for is if chat.years. All right. Continue. Else we need to process the stuff that whatever is entered over here. All right. So we need to get to say years is equals to, we need to put this inside of a try. We need to say years is equals to integer, whatever the text that was entered, right? And removing all the places, the spaces. Replace empty spaces with nothing. And then, so we're gonna try and you know, get the integer of the years from there. If this one fails, there's an exception. If there's an exception, we're going to ask them to try again, right? We're going to say message is equals to please try again. Try again, enter only a number. Okay, like 1 or 2, right? And then we're gonna send that message, right? If there's a problem there. If there's no problem, like if we're able to go through the try, it means that everything was done properly. Then we can just go to the next question. Message. But before we go to the next question, we obviously want to save the chat years. And if I remember correctly, the chat years is an integer field, so we can save it exactly the way it has been created at the top there. And then we can chat.save. And then we can send the next message. So this years over here is the same years over there. All right. So the next question after the years is progress. How much progress have you made in your business? How much traction have you made in your business? And this is not really an important question, to be honest. And then we're going to send this over there. And then once we've done that, now we will have chat.years, right? And then the next one obviously will be chat.progress. Okay. So the next one we ask over here is if chat.progress, all right, else we're gonna save whatever that was in there. So let's just continue from there. If chat.progress is not there, else chat.progress is equals to text, sort of like this. All right, and then chat.save. Cool. And then the next time you come through, chat.progress will be there. And what we want to say after this, we just want to say something like, hey, we have everything that we need to build your business plan. Okay, maybe a nice smiley face. All right, great. To build business plan. And then after we do that, we send the message again, and the next time here, when we come over here, this will be done. So because I don't wanna we're gonna have to continue this function over here, do something else, right? We're gonna have to do something here. But because we can't write that function now, I want to just test what I already have, because I've written quite a bit of code here. Instead of like doing anything at this point, I just want to send a message that says, smiley faces, just some three smiley faces. That's it, right? By the time you reach this point, you have saved everything, including your progress. So you have the model, you have everything, including the progress. Now you can actually run your AI with all of this information that's required, and you can go and get all of this market analysis and stuff, and you can run it in the background. So you can say, give us a moment, something like give us a moment. We will message you when your business plan is ready. All right, maybe I'll have a running man here who a busy technologist. Let's see, a technologist. There we go. We got a nice. Let's get a female technologist who's more female, like the smart females writing all of this AI. Okay, I'm gonna say our AI is working on it. Right, give us a moment. We will message you when your business plan is ready. All right, so we're gonna have some so by the time you reach here, you've saved everything in the chat. In fact, we'll have a function over here that does the AI stuff, and we can write that function somewhere else. And then once that is done and the AI is complete, we can create the model, number one. And then after creating the model, obviously maybe in the next tutorial, what we will do is that we will then put all of this in a PDF document and actually write a PDF, and you can do that with Django, and then you can save the PDF somewhere online with Django, and then you can then just get the link and then message the link back to the person on WhatsApp, and then they can download it, and that's so cool. So that's what we're going to do next week. But for now, before I end this tutorial today, I've written quite a bit of code. All right, I'm not going to make this code available again. I'm hoping you can just type along as I'm typing, and I hope I didn't make mistakes. I'm not gonna go through it. I'm gonna just try and see if there's an error. I will see it. So the most important thing is what's happening over here, where we're creating the chat, or we are collecting the chat, and then and then it should basically be like messaging you as you go along, and you should be responding, and as you respond, it saves the next variable, and so forth and so forth. That's why we sort of layered all the variables on top of each other, and we are using the if to check if something has already been done to figure out if you should do it again. Okay, this is my own code. I thought this through, and we're gonna test it now and see what actually happens over here. So the first thing that will kick off is this function here that's called handle WhatsApp chat, kicks off from over here in the view. All right, so let's do that. And of course we want to be able to reset the chat. Like if somebody like wanted to stop in the to reset and enter 0 and delete, they should be able to do that, and we'll test all of that, you know. But for now, let's just test what we already have. All right, so remember we need to run migrations because we created a new model. We created this new model here with the options. We haven't run these migrations, so let's start with that. Okay, let's clear, let's add. Cool. Now we can restart this. Okay, let's clear this, and then let's go to our WhatsApp. So now when I send a WhatsApp, I don't expect it to just send the same re back to me. It should start the conversation from the beginning. All right, and we're gonna check all of these as we go along. I just want to move this a little bit up so you can see. Oh goodness, I want to move this. Oh, goodness, what is it? All right, let me do it from there. There you go. I want to move it a bit up so you can see as I go along. All right, so I'm gonna just type anything. Type whatever you want to say. Say hello world. Okay, what should happen is it should go into the intent and check your phone number and all of those things, and then it should send the first message. So let's see. What it should do is that, did I run migrations? No, that's probably why we have a problem. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so there's a problem here. Oh, class. This is a class. What am I doing? Of course, yes. Models.model. All right. I didn't even see that. But I think I included the correct model inside of my admin. All right. I think that's good. Let's do this again. All right, let's push. All right, clear this. Let's make migrations. Cool. Let's migrate. All right, and then we can then restart the system. All right, now let's try that hello world again. Yay. No. Okay, so what's going on here? Welcome to the AI Business Plan Creator. I'm going to take you through the process of creating your business plan right here on WhatsApp. To get started, enter your business name. And then it immediately went to the next one, right? Which is not really what we want, because let's just have a look at our functions. It says enter your business name, right? And then over here, so this is not right. It's just, why is it resending the message again? Something ain't cool. So what it's supposed to happen here is that it's supposed to sort of, after it sends this message, send WhatsApp message, we should actually exit out of this function. But I thought by sending the WhatsApp it would exit, right? But what it did is that it came over here and it said if chat.business name, and the chat.business name was not there. So maybe it went into else, and then from else it then whatever the text that was entered, it entered that. And then now it's going into the next thing. So I think we need to find a way to exit out of the function, because every time we send a WhatsApp message, we need to actually return out of the function. Okay. Let's see over here, return answer. All right, so let me just go check a couple of things inside of my models, because now at the very least we should have is a user created with my WhatsApp ID. So this is the name that I have on my WhatsApp. So the user was created using so the first part, all of this happened as we intended for it to happen. So it checked for the chat and it was able to create a user. And let's check also for the profiles. We now have a profile over here, all right, with that user ID, all right, and that phone ID. Let's check my first profile. This is the profile I did for testing. So this one is actually, we can actually delete this profile. All right. So the function works well all the way up to here. And then we just need to sort of get the questions to work as they should. But now the video is getting a little bit long. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to stop this video here. I'm going to pause it here. And we're going to continue next week. And I think I've given you enough information for you to figure out even how to fix this problem that we have. Because what we need to do now is that when it finishes sending the WhatsApp message, all right, we want it to, we don't want it to, to continue. So for example, if chat.businessname, because chat.businessname was not created, it must go into the else. Right, and after it goes into the else, okay, let's see. If chat.businessname was created, if there's no chat.businessname, it needs to go into the else and ask for the business name. Actually, it needs to ask for the business name over here. Yeah, and then it shouldn't do anything until the business name is entered. All right, only when the business name is entered, then when you now type, should you start this function again. So every time it sends a WhatsApp message, we need to exit from this function. Okay, we need to return or something. So that's what I forgot. But I'm going to add all of those returns now, because it shouldn't continue after sending, because what it's doing is that after sending the WhatsApp message, it's continuing to the next line. And immediately it's taking whatever the text, it's saving it, it's continuing to the next line. Because I'm sure if I go and I look for my chat sessions, I'm going to find a session over there. And that session, hello world, what I entered before was what was saved under the business name. So what I've done is that I didn't actually exit the function. It just continued running. So at this point, I need to exit and then it must run again only after I send the message back, which means only when then this function gets reactivated again, and it gets reactivated when somebody sends the webhook. So this function must always exit after it sends the WhatsApp message. But I'm going to leave that now, and we'll continue with that next week, because now the video is getting a little bit long. But I'm going to give it to you as a homework. I always give you a homework when we're doing our videos. Try and figure out how to exit the function, but this is simple Python, so I'm sure you'll get it right. And then let's see if we can get all of this testing to work by next week. So what we'll focus on next week when we get back is that we will focus on now that we can create the intent. At the end of the intent over here, we need to obviously delete the chat session, but then we need to take all of that information from the chat session and send it into the API, model API, and then create now this business model with all of this information coming from the API and save it in the model as it is. Then after that, we're going to then go and build an actual HTML PDF, and we're going to put all of that information in a PDF, and then we're going to save the file, and then we're going to send the user back the link, and they can just download their business plan as a PDF. And I think we only have one more session to just complete that, because I think what's left, the really complication, the hard thing about it is actually just, you know, creating the PDF, because we've already done the models, we have already done the AI prompts. It's just a matter of now putting all of this into a PDF and sending the PDF back to the user. Okay, so I'll see you guys next week. This is a really exciting project. Let me know if you found this project as exciting as I found it. I really think there's use cases for this. I'm gonna build something like this and actually launch it out there for multiple type of documents, not just business plans. A business plan, maybe a CV, any type of document that people wanna build quickly. They don't have the time. We're just gonna go through a WhatsApp, ask them a few questions, boom. We produce a document for them and send them a link, and they do all of that without even ever going to the internet, right? So I think definitely this is going to be very, very exciting. So I'll see you guys next week, right? Or maybe 2 weeks from now. Let's see how the schedule opens up.